All right, we're back. This is Worker Power Hour with Randy Corgan on the Teamsters 1932 Broadcast Network, airing live from San Bernardino. And our next guest, boy, that was a good, man. That was good to have Eric in here. You know, obviously Eric and I have known each other for a few decades, and it was really good to have him in here and talk about that amazing strike they just had, in addition to a lot of the other work that he's been doing in the industry.
Really like that idea about the park.
Yeah, what a great idea to build a park. They're going to build a park for special needs children and adults, and they're in the middle of doing that and almost done, and kind of finalizing some of those pieces. But again, these are the things that unions do in the community. We're always doing something positive. So with that, I'm going to shift gears here. Our Teamster Advantage partner, someone I've happened to know a very long time. And for those of you who don't know, our Teamster Advantage program is comprised of more than 1,000 small businesses throughout the Inland Empire. We're in nearly 30 chambers of commerce or local chambers of commerce. And one of the things that we do is we want to advocate for small business. We want to advocate for a lot of these small business owners that are really just trying to do the best that they can with raising their family, or making a few bucks, getting through the day, dealing with the challenges of the small business community, the middle class, just like everybody else out there. And if we can connect the dots where our members or the general public is using, we'd obviously rather you go to James here as a tax guy, and we'd rather you go here than H&R Block or one of those big corporate individuals. I can tell you, I've been nothing but satisfied by being engaged with this phenomenal family, because obviously it's been a family of tax preparers. It was his father's business. Your sister, she's retired, right?
Yeah, she retired about 3 years ago. Correct.
Does you pull her back and make her work still a little bit?
I would like to, but unfortunately that doesn't happen. When she checked out, she checked out.
Good for her. And tell Emily I said hi.
100%. Yeah,
she's just a great person, and just, again, phenomenal. And for those of you guys don't know, James C. Henry EA, he has been an enrolled agent since 1994. And, really in the nutshell, he makes sure that he's someone who files tax returns for individuals, partnerships, corporations, estates, trusts, and other entities with tax reporting requirements. He provides tax planning advice, and I will tell you, his tax planning advice has always been very, very good, very spot on. Really appreciate what you've done for me and every referral I've ever sent you in 3 decades. I've never had somebody come back to me and be dissatisfied with the services that they got from you and your team over 3 decades. Literally never. That never happens.
Well, I appreciate it. And I think it's a testament to how much you really care about helping people, because when it comes down to it, income tax is just not numbers and formulas and laws. It really is about trying to fit the laws to fit the individual or the business in order to try and give them the best advantage they have. And I lose sleep over things that don't get done and things that don't get done right. And so I like to sleep, I guess, is my point. So might as well do it right the first time, is what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah. Well, first of all, James, we've known each other a very long time, and man, you look great, man.
I start my day at the gym. I think that helps with the energy and focus. I'm very regimented. I'm very, I think the older I got, the more about that daily routine that keeps me sane. So yeah, and good genes. My mom's 90, about to turn 91, still doing very well, living at home with her little dog. She drives during the day.
Best tax man out there. My old tax guy didn't do nearly the great job that James does every year.
Oh, wow.
Just live interaction. Anyway,
I like it. That's nice.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sure you'd love to hear that, right?
I do. I appreciate that. Yeah, I do. So yeah, I think it's good genes. So that's good for me. I plan to keep working for quite a while.
And you're a Laker fan. That's one of the things you and I share, right?
diehard Laker fan,
all the ups and downs,
all the
Lakers
ups and downs,
30 years.
Absolutely. And yeah, I try to get to a few games every year, and I think I'm going in a week or so, actually. So
oh, good.
Yeah.
You going Christmas Day or?
No, I have.
Yeah,
I have. I went one time.
Christmas Day.
One time. And it was, unfortunately, nobody wanted to go with me because it was Christmas Day. And so my only friend that wanted to, yeah, there you go.
Mark's like, put his hand up. I'll go.
The only friend that wanted to go was my friend Zach, who knew nothing about basketball. He was a hockey fan. I said, we're 3 rows back from the center off the floor. I said, okay, we're going to wear fedoras, because every time a Laker checked in, we were on TV. So we taped it, and we watched it when we got home. Oh, there we are. There we are.
That's
There we
hilarious.
are. And so he had a great time just because it's a live game and that's exciting. Knew nothing about it.
That's great. All right, so we've got a fair amount of time. In about 8 minutes, I got to take a break. This is an NBC station, so we have mandatory news at the top of the hour. So we'll take a little bit of break for that news to come in, and then when we come back from it, we'll still have another like 15 to 20 minutes to go through some of the nuts and bolts. You're going to cover. There's been a lot of changes this year in the tax code. You've got and a lot of misinformation out there.
Oh, clearly.
Yeah. So actually, why don't you introduce your business a little bit too? Because I remember it being Ray K. Henry, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, when my dad retired many, many years ago, of course, you got to put your own name in the spotlight.
Right.
So basically just changed the name and moved on. My dad started doing taxes in the late 60s. I started to work for him in 1990. My first tax season was the tax year for 1989. So you can only imagine how many changes have occurred over that many years.
Did I start with you your first year?
You know,
pretty close, man.
You know what? I was having a conversation
cow.
with my office before I came out here, and I was trying to figure it out, because I remember me and you sitting at the White Oak address, and that was the first one we went to from Ontario, and we only did one tax season in Ontario, then went to Rancho. So I'm going to have to say it's got to be at least 25, at least.
Yeah.
So
no, I would say 92, 93.
Okay. I'm going to stamp that down.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So yeah, full-fledged. The business really was, you know, back in those days was a lot about construction and businesses, you know, all the Lewis homes going up in Rancho, everything being built up in the high desert. That was our client base from a business standpoint. But our bread and butter has always been individual tax returns. We do a number of those, of course, as well, usually about 2,500 or more. And close to 300 entities. The true emphasis of this business, when you talked about tax planning and so forth, is individual, but also small business transition. Someone starts a business in their garage, they start to do well, it becomes a tax issue, they're paying, you know, self-employment, income tax, they're getting killed. We transition them into a more tax advantaged entity, LLCs, as corporation, things like that. So that side of the business has grown quite a bit over the last 15 years, and different types of businesses. Of course, the construction is always there, but it is less of a part of our business now because there's less local construction going on.
Right. Right. All right. Great. Where do you want to start? Like, you got this big old 15-page thing here.
It's just 3 pages with very large type, sir. I was thinking maybe I won't use my glasses, but here I am.
Right.
So I think that what most people want to talk about, or what they want in clarification, is the big, beautiful bill. So there's some main points. What was explained to the public or portrayed to the public was no tax on Social Security, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Those are the highlights. What I like to go through is basically explain exactly how that played out. When I was going through last tax season, explaining to my clients, telling them, yes, that all sounds great, but that particular no tax on just those 3 items was almost a $10 trillion loss in tax revenue to the government. So it's got to come from somewhere. So as I emphasized over years of experience in this business, is that what they're trying to do and what's going to happen are 2 different things. And I said from the beginning that it's going to come through that they're going to do something in those 3 areas, but it won't be no tax, because it's virtually impossible, because it's got to come from somewhere. And when it trickled down, and that's exactly what happened. And I really want to explain what that means to the general public and what group of individuals are going to benefit from this. And it's quite a few. If I look at my client base, I would say that 60% of my client base is going to have some benefit of these changes. And the other 40% won't. And it really comes down to income limitations, as with everything.
And then the complexity into how it's going to benefit.
Correct.
It's like you said, it's not just It's not as simple as, well, there's no taxes. Hey, let me call the payroll and tell them to reduce my deductions right now. That's probably not a smart move.
Yeah, absolutely. Once this bill passed, I told my whole office staff, anybody that calls and says, can I change my paycheck? Can I claim more because of this? Told everyone, pump the brakes. We really don't know how this is going to play out. When the bill passed, it was very convoluted and very unclear. And I said, we have to wait for the IRS regulations to come back. Congress throws at the IRS. They lay it out on the forms. They change everything. It's so difficult. Normally, in a normal tax year, before Thanksgiving, the government shuts down. Basically, they don't allow you to do any electronic filing as a preparer from November 22, usually, till almost January 20th, while they update everything. They haven't even stopped yet.
Oh, boy.
And we're in December.
Oh, boy.
So that means probably one of two things. We may have a further delay on when we can file. That doesn't mean we can't prepare taxes and get the outcome.
Get them started.
We just can't actually file them. It could be February for all we know, because it is very complex. And to that point, before we go into some of these details, the W-2s will change because of all these changes, because there's going to be more boxes and more breakdowns. And as I understand it, as of today, they're not changing the W-2s,
oh, boy,
which makes it even more complex.
That's going to be difficult for you. Yep.
It is, but it also means that the average individual, my clients and everyone else that prepares taxes, are going to need more information from our clients to be able to do the deductions that we need to do.
So what we got to do is we got to go to this mandatory break at the top of the hour. Believe it or not, you've already torn up 12 minutes. Oh. It's crazy how it just blows by.
Absolutely.
This is Worker Power Hour with Randy Corgan on the Teamsters 1932 Broadcast Network, airing live from San Bernardino. Taking a break at the top of the hour mark.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. Teamsters1932.org.
NBC News Radio. I'm Chris Caraccio. Wall Street is closing with stocks in the green after the Federal Reserve lowered interest rates by a 0.25 percentage point. It marks the third straight interest rate cut. The benchmark rate is now in a range of 3.5% to 3.75%. The Fed appeared to indicate there will be just one rate cut next year and one in 2027. At the closing bell, the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 497 points. An oil tanker has been seized by the U.S. off the coast of Venezuela. Speaking from the White House, President Trump said more information about the seizure will be coming out soon. The move comes as tensions have escalated between Trump and Venezuelan President Maduro. The U.S. already has a large military presence in the Caribbean and has launched deadly strikes against suspected drug boats exiting Venezuela. It's looking to be a cold weekend for millions in the central and northeastern United States. The current forecast suggests snow will be seen in the Midwest on Saturday and then shift to the Northeast Sunday. I'm Chris Caraccio, NBC News Radio.
It's that time of year again. No, not the holidays. Medicare open enrollment. And if you have questions about Medicare, you should talk to the local experts, Paul Barrich and Associates. Paul and his agents are certified with plans that are accepted by most of the medical groups in our area. Call 909-793-0385. That's 909-793-0385. Their services are free, and after 43 years in the business, their agents are trained to help you pick the plan that's right for you.
Are you looking for a good union job? The Inland Empire's 14,000 member strong Teamsters Local 1932 has opened a training center to get working people trained and placed in open positions in public service clerical work and in jobs in the logistics industry. This is a new opportunity to advance your career and raise standards across the region. Visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org.
The KCAA 1050 AM NBC News Radio and Express 106.5 FM. Howard's Appliances, a nearly 80-year retail chain in Southern California, closed its doors on December 6th. It is expected to file for bankruptcy protection. The company is blaming tariffs and declining consumer spending for its collapse. President Trump has made his battle over tariffs with foreign nations a major administration policy to raise revenue for the country and revitalize the economy and create jobs domestically. In the meantime, consumers are questioning how to find out how they can recover thousands of dollars paid to Howard's. The company says there will be partial refunds available for consumers who made payments or undelivered products, as well as possibly picking up some appliances that were in stock and not delivered. The procedures for recovery has not yet been fully outlined. Howard's was based in La Habra before consolidating operations in December 2024. Several customers in recent days have been frantically trying to either get their appliances delivered or picked up at a store or get reimbursed for payments made as long ago as October. A recent grant from Inland Empire Community Foundation has been awarded to the nonprofit U.S. Vets, whose mission is to prevent and end veteran homelessness and empower veterans and families through their housing, advocacy, and comprehensive services. Funds for the U.S. Vet organization will fund families that need extra food. The nonprofit supports more than 400 veterans and their families with emergency, transitional, and permanent housing, mental health care, career services, and comprehensive individual support. This includes prevention programs and services that help older veterans age in place. For NBC News Radio, KCAA 1050 AM and Express 106.5 FM, I'm Lillian Vasquez, and you're up to date.
Welcome to the Worker Power Hour with Randy Corrigan, a brand new show about labor and worker issues. The host of the show is Randy Corrigan, Secretary, Treasurer, and Principal Office and leader of Teamsters 1932, one of the largest public sector labor unions on the West Coast, representing workers in government and non-sworn law enforcement personnel. Randy Corrigan is a 30-year Teamster who first became involved in the labor movement by volunteering his time as an organizer with the Teamsters Union at the age of 21. Since then, he's helped thousands organize, mobilize, and achieve bargaining rights. He accomplished this by spending countless hours with brave men and women all over Southern California, in their living rooms, on the picket line, to bring workers towards victory. This is the Worker Power Hour. And now here's the host of the show, Randy Corrigan.
Yeah, we're back. This is the Worker Power Hour with Randy Corrigan on the Teamsters 1932 Broadcast Network. We are being joined by James Henry, and he is a tax preparer, and he is going to talk about some of these very complicated changes that there's been a lot of misinformation out there on, and he's going to help us drill down on, the so-called no tax on Social Security, what that really means, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Obviously, just before the break, he was describing some of the mechanisms at the IRS and how we are impacted by the change, and it's probably going to create a delay in how filings are going to start happening, just because the systems itself are going to have to be adjusted to the tax code that's been passed by Congress and ultimately cleansed and dealt with by the IRS. And then now tax preparers are going to have to get the information from those that are working and doing the work. And so with that, I also want to thank James for his discount of 15% for union members. When they are our Teamster Advantage members, when they come in and they present their card and explain to James, hey, or anybody in his office, they get a 15% discount on their services. So James, thank you very much for being that partner with our Teamster Advantage plan and a program for since its inception, actually since 2016. So,
Absolutely happy to help, and always happy to help the union. That's for sure.
So with that, where do you want to start? Social Security, tips, overtime?
Yeah. So we mentioned a little bit before the break, the highlights of what I wanted to talk about are what the big, beautiful bill has to do and how it's going to affect the average person. The highlights being no tax on Social Security, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. And there's also something that's pretty new. I say new because the last time we were able to write off any consumer interest on a tax return was the early 90s. And they brought back one thing, and that's the car loan deduction for interest paid on a loan that was purchased, or sorry, a car that was purchased in 2025 for personal use only. And I'll get into a little bit more detail later on that. So that's something that was brought back from a long time ago. We used to be able to write off credit card interest, believe it or not, back in the day. So this is a little bit of something that's going to help the average individual. Let's start with no tax on Social Security. Let's be clear. They did not change how they tax Social Security whatsoever. It is not any different than it was the year before. What was changed was that if you are 65 or older, you now get an additional deduction of $6,000 per individual. So if you're a single person, you get an extra $6,000 deducted off your taxable income. That's after they calculate the tax on your Social Security. So that's to my point that they didn't change that. And to my point from the previous, before the break, they offered this, and this is what we're getting, right? So if you're a married couple and you're both 65 or older, you're going to get an extra $12,000 deduction. And if you bought a car, now we're talking, you got interest. So things are changing for the retired community. And I don't want to go into the deep dive of if you have income over a certain level, how that's going to affect it. But
or taper off.
Correct.
Figure that out on an individual basis.
Yes, absolutely. So, but it is something that will definitely affect the retired community, the average community. Like I said, at least 60% of my clients that are retired will pay less tax because of this. So it's a very good thing.
And it goes in a sense. I think the way you just described it is they're going to have an additional $6,000 deduction versus it just being no taxes on it.
Well, let's put it this way: if let's say a retired single person, his total income combined is $50,000. The government gives what's a standard deduction before they pay tax on that. So that's $15,750. Now it's $21,750.
Got it.
So that's real money right there. That's a $6,000 deduction. If they're in the 12% bracket, you can figure out the math from there. So you are paying less tax for sure. So it is helping them completely. So
great.
Before we go into the next subject, I'm going to tell a joke.
A tax joke, I hope.
Oh, they're all tax jokes.
I love it.
I don't even know if I retain anything but that. So IKEA has been accused of evading over $500 million in taxes. Apparently, prosecutors have been after them for years, but they're having a really hard time putting their case together.
Right. See, James, you can have your own show, man. Let's have, the tax show with James.
Hey, I don't want to.
I don't know how riveting it'll be, but
yeah. If someone has trouble falling asleep, then I'm available.
Well, this itemized issue over here.
Yeah. Well, let's just add this and subtract this and see what happens.
You just
it was so hard to build. I didn't want to deal with it.
It all makes sense. It all plays out. So let's move on to no tax on tips. This one was really volatile and convoluted, and by the time it got down to us, it's just like I said, they changed it according to what they wanted to change and where it fit for their budget. So from 2025 to 2028, and I want to emphasize too the rule change I just mentioned about the additional $6,000 deduction for 65 or older. It's only from 25 to 28 at this point.
Right.
So it could revert back to the old rules, or they may extend it. It's hard to say. This also applies to no tax on tips, which is not no tax on tips. It is the first $25,000 of tips are not taxable. So if you've got a professional server that maybe works at Mastro's or Fleming's, they could be making $120,000 a year, and $80,000 of that is tips. So the difference between the $25,000 and $80,000 is still going to be taxed as it normally is. Now that's a maximum. As I explained before, with the $6,000 deduction for 65 and older, it's per individual. If you're married, it's 12. If you're single, it's 6. This is just 25,000, period, for a single taxpayer or a married taxpayer. So if you got two professional servers, husband and wife, it's just 25,000. It's not 50.
Okay.
So let's keep that in mind.
And this is good. I love these details, because this is going to help all of you listening. That when you do go see your tax preparer, hopefully it's James, that you know you kind of get an idea of what to expect. And by the way, your number's 909-948-1040.
And it has been for 34 years.
I remembered that number.
Yes. Interesting story. Let me tell you how that came about. My father wanted a number that ended in 1040 because he thought that'd be a great, gig, right? And so at the time, he had a client that worked at GTE. Do we remember GTE?
Yes, yeah,
as the
General
phone
Telephone
company?
Electric.
There we go.
Phone company.
Yeah, there we go. So he called him. He said, "Hey,
He does not remember GTE.
No, you've got to be at a certain age for that." So he asked him, he goes, well, they're all taken, but why don't you just do this? Here's a list of all the ones that end in 1040 in your area, and it's got to be within this geographic area. Start calling them and offer some money and see if you can get a number from them, and I'll switch it out for you. So on his third call, after the first adamant no's, was a third one, and this lady said, "You know what? I just got this number. I haven't even given it to my family yet. I'll take your $100." And here we are.
Nice. What a great
whole
story.
$100?
And you've had it for
it was like, I think it was
40 some years, 50 years. Yeah.
So back in that day, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Ask Robert if he knows any of his phone numbers in his phone.
Can you remember a phone number?
My mom's.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. At least there's one.
I remember my mom's too, because she doesn't have a cell phone. It's kind of the reverse. Okay.
That's funny.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
So yeah, the no tax on tips. This will, another thing I want to emphasize too, this doesn't just apply to W-2 employees. It also applies to the self-employed. As an example, Uber and Lyft drivers, they're going to have to document what portion of their income is tips. So that is something, not necessarily it needs to be supported when you do your taxes, but it is something that they were required to have as documentation. In case proof is necessary at some point. And that's the word that starts with an A we won't be discussing today. And of course, like we said before, there's always income limitations, but that'll be calculated with your tax
So
professional.
how's the overtime going to work, James? Because, man, that one really, that's going to be, I'm wondering how bookkeepers, how payroll specialists or payroll personnel, how everybody's going to kind of manage that and then deal with it on the W-2, as you pointed out. So what's the real deal on overtime?
Well, the real deal, let me explain overtime just to make sure that everybody understands what is actually overtime and what this bill changed. If you're making $20 an hour and you work overtime, you're now making $30. Overtime's the 10, not the 20. That's still regular wages. So they call it time and a half. The half is the overtime,
Right.
not the 20. Okay. So this rule only affects the $10.
The half.
So keep that in mind. And to your point, the complexity of this is so much that at this point, we don't know if they're changing the W-2s. As of today, they say they're still not going to change the W-2 until 2026.
So how are they going to sort that out?
If it comes to push come to shove, anybody that has overtime is going to have to provide their last paycheck stub so the tax preparer can fill in those dots and fill in the forms appropriately, which is going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, a lot more work.
Let's hope that if it is delayed, the start of the season, the updating that the IRS does, that they do get that implemented, because it's going to be difficult, and you're going to need a tax professional.
So to be clear, there's still tax on that first one times. It's just the last half.
Your tax on your regular wages. What this law is, and again, it's not no tax on that. There is a limitation, and there's a dollar figure, and that dollar figure is $12,500. Okay. That's per individual. So a husband and wife, if they both work overtime, he gets $12,500, she gets $12,500 on the $10.
Yep.
That's a lot of overtime.
Yep.
Just the overtime. Again, not the regular time, but just the overtime. So with that example.
And then an accounting space, that's just going to be difficult for everybody to extract and obviously itemize and clean out.
Well, the good thing about paycheck stubs that do involve overtime, it is very specific, and there are year-to-date figures. So as long as the individual, which by law he should have and should be provided to them, as you know, then it will include that overtime, which is a great thing. So yeah, this has higher phase out limitations, which is great. As a matter of fact, I'll just give you one figure for phase out. That's $300,000 when the phase out completes for a married couple. And that's a pretty decent wage for a husband and wife. So this will be helpful for people with overtime.
Good.
Yeah. And that's fantastic. But again, it's not no tax on overtime.
Correct.
It was changed and trickled down to this, as we discussed earlier. So,
All right.
yeah,
We got about 10 minutes left. What you got?
All right. Well, one more.
This has been good, by the way.
Good.
I feel for me, because obviously I'm in this space where I get to hear this a lot. I've learned a lot just in this half hour so far to be able to give people some tidbits. Of course, I always say give James a call; he'll figure it out for you.
That's why I have 4 lines.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So, what's your next joke?
Okay, let's go. Did you know how you can tell that Monopoly is an old game? It has a luxury tax, and rich people can actually go to jail.
That's a good one. Rich people can actually go to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect your $200.
And to that point, whoever wins the Mega Millions jackpot will make history, not because they won it. They'll be the first billionaire to pay taxes.
Oh, nice, James. See, I like these. These are good jokes.
I'll save the last couple here for the very end. So
all right.
Let's talk about the car loan interest. Know this, and this is another thing about paperwork and how trying to implement all of these changes as well as make it retroactive to the beginning of the year, which is pretty difficult for a government to do of our size. If you bought a car in 2025, new or used, as a personal vehicle, and I'll tell you exactly what it has to be, that loan company, if you paid $600 or more in interest, they're supposed to provide you a document that gives you
how much interest paid,
all the data that you need to bring to someone like me. Let's hope it includes the VIN of your vehicle, because that is one of the requirements on the new forms. That, again, could be a very difficult thing to implement timely for this particular season. So know that if you did purchase a vehicle, and we'll go through the rules again, that you will need to bring your VIN. So bring in the registration as you normally do for the DMV deduction as well, but it's going to be complicated. Let me give you some of the rules that apply to these vehicles. Now, first and foremost, this only applies to vehicles whose final assembly occurred within the United States. Very important. And you can see that's obviously we're trying to keep everything here.
Correct.
And that's why they want it. So the number one rule, original use commences with the taxpayer, meaning the loan was taken out in 2025. No commercial vehicles, no salvage titles, and not leased vehicles. No lease vehicles. So keep that in mind. Must have 2 wheels or more, which means motorcycles apply as well. Something to think about. Yes.
A car that has 1 wheel?
Well, I don't know. Unicycles.
Yeah, that's
Right, man.
2 or more. So 6 wheels, 8 wheels.
Well, it's got to be a car, minivan, van, SUV, pickup truck, motorcycle. It must have a gross weight of less than 14,000
There it
pounds.
goes.
So,
Okay,
there
that
you
would
go. Yeah.
that would do that. Okay.
And again, like I said, I can't emphasize enough that you need to bring in your VIN. So do that. But again, that's a maximum of 10,000. There are income limitations. But you can. I had a phone call with a client. We're doing some tax planning. They moved to Georgia. One good thing and reflection on our business is that even though people sometimes move out of state to retire, they don't leave us. So I retain a lot of clients, and I get a chance to do tax returns all over the country, which I am licensed to do as well. Enrolled agents are licensed on a federal level, not a state level. So that's why we're able to do that. This tax planning involved, they have a small business. We were trying to calculate because they had a bad year. The year before, they took out a lot of money from retirement. It was a little haphazard. They owed money, and we were trying to make sure that that wasn't going to happen. We made some changes during tax season so that it would be a better end result, but we wanted to double check. And that's something I do offer to clients. They don't take it up enough. Part of the fee that you pay me to do your taxes, I offer that service. It's not an additional fee to make sure you're okay. either
partway
mid-year
through
or
the
at
year.
the end of the year.
Yep.
Yeah. And so going back and looking at their conversation, I had them, they both were on Social Security. I had them take some taxes out of that because they didn't have any taken out the year before. We adjusted some on their small W-2 wage because they're doing some part-time jobs, and then small business. Now, when we talked about these rule changes, they're going to get the extra $12,000 of deduction because they're 65 and older, and they bought a car. And some of the income from the small business were tips. 3 things already in that one conversation that helped the average American. So pretty exciting.
That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm required to get 24 hours of education every year for my license. It's usually 40, 60, 80. It depends on what I'm interested in. It depends on how my clients have businesses are leaning towards or changing to learn new things to make sure we're current on all things. This year, I think by the end of the year, I had to be about 85 just because of all these changes. I thought when I finished school, I was done. What a fool. Always learning, but that's a good thing. So, one other deduction that most people probably didn't realize changed at the end of 2018. When you itemize, when you are a taxpayer that has a house and you have mortgage interest and property taxes and donations, you itemize. The government gives you a standard deduction if you don't own a home, and you use that to lower your taxable income. If you have itemized deductions, one of the things they did at 2018, there's a section that includes, you've got the mortgage interest, charitable. There's another section. That section includes the state and local taxes, property taxes, DMV, personal taxes, personal property taxes, land, and so forth. You used to be able to write off prior to the end of 2018, whatever that figure adds up to, be it 5,000, be it 50,000. Well, at the end of 2018, they capped that at $10,000. New rules. Guess what? The cap's now 40,000. So that's a big deal. It won't help everyone, but it'll help a lot of people in California because we all know that property taxes just in itself could be 8 or 10,000. Not to mention the state and local taxes taken out of your check are also part of that section.
Correct.
So the average person is going to exceed that. And those limitations, they didn't affect California, which is odd. California never got on board with that change. So when we do it as a tax preparer, we would add those in no matter what it went past that cap because we knew on the back end with California would help. So this is going to help everyone, which is a very good thing.
Well, good. We got a couple minutes.
All right. One more joke?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
We always got plenty of time for jokes.
I want to end with that one. So let's not go there. Has anyone realized, and I'm doing air quotes if you can see me or you can imagine, the IRS spells theirs? All right. Mark like that one. Okay. All right. That's like that old handwritten joke, the simple tax form, which said, please enter your income. And at the bottom says what you're going to give us. Put the exact same number.
Right.
Okay.
That's what happens to me every year.
Right.
I mean,
I love this. These tax jokes.
Well,
you got one last one. I would, you got this last one here.
This is the last one.
This is pretty funny.
Okay. A young teen boy was buying a pack of condoms for the first time. He sees the price is $10, and when he goes to pay at the register, it adds up to $10.65. What is this 65 cents about? He asked the cashier. Well, it's for the tax. I was wondering how they keep those things on.
I'm done.
I'm done. Funny conversation about teens or young adults who then go into the workforce. I know one of my kids' first check was shocked that taxes came out. They were like, well, wait a minute here. I don't understand this. I'm like looking at them going, yeah. Like,
welcome to the real world.
Yeah, welcome to the real world. Like, oh boy. Like, you worked, it's like 30 hours. He was working in and out. And he was like, man, I don't understand this. Like, how come I'm not getting my full check? I'm like, Oh man, you got so much to learn.
Yeah. You know, my dad would use those examples all the time. His first job, I think his paycheck was $1 and he got 95 cents and he lost it.
Where's my nickel?
Where's my nickel? And, you know, think about that in relative terms to today.
Yeah.
It was a nickel, and that was a lot back then, a lot that he lost.
You know, it's interesting thing about taxes. It's the one thing everybody's okay with you cheating on.
You
like that joke?
I'm not going to laugh or condone
You can
that
take the
whatsoever.
fifth. Just take the fifth.
Yeah, I'm taking thank you. I appreciate that. So,
well, hey, you know, this is the Worker Power Hour. You know, we've just had James Henry on. He is a tax preparer in the area for more than 30 years. He's been on our Teamster Advantage program for its entire time, almost the entire 9 years that the Teamster Advantage program has been in place. One of the more than 1,000 businesses connected to our network. We really appreciate the relationship. And again, just as some of the posts came in here talking about what a phenomenal job you do as a tax guy, tax preparer, really appreciate what you do for the community. Appreciate you coming on and explaining these new changes and explaining they're not quite how they were explained. There's some benefit to them, and therefore that way you're better prepared when you go in. Hopefully you're seeing James or someone like James. Short of that, you're at least better prepared when you get to that spot. Is there anything you'd like to close on, James?
Well, I can't emphasize enough that if any tax season you need help from a real professional, you should go see one, because this has gotten, of course, more complex every year, but this is especially complex. And make sure that there's someone that has been in the neighborhood or for a long time. Make sure that they have a good rep. Sadly, I see a lot of tax returns that I review when I get new clients that are just a mess. And these people come in, they set up shop, they're there for 2 or 3 years, and they disappear. So just make sure that you check their background, get a good referral, but you're going to need a real professional this year. It's gotten very complex.
And one of the things that, James, you've always offered up people that I've always told everybody, and if I'm wrong in this, please correct me, is that I've always told individuals who have asked me questions, said, look, just give James a call. You know, the other thing you need to do is bring in your tax returns from the last couple of years for free. He's going to take a look at it, and he's going to say whether somebody had steered you wrong or not before. And he's going to give you literally decades of experience to show you either what you can do and or what could have been done different. And I think in some cases you're able to actually refile and make amendments, right?
Oh, absolutely. You can amend tax returns 3 years from the date of filing. And that's as far as you can go back. But it's imperative when I have a new client that I see the last 2 years at least of tax returns, not only to make sure that everything was done correctly, but for carry forward issues and consistencies. So if someone is preparing your tax return for the first time and they're not reviewing a prior year, I would question why, because it's very, very important to do that.
Well, once again, James, and your entire family, thank you very much for everything that you've done for so many union members, my own family, for more than 3 decades. Appreciate the relationship and partnership with the community that you have. Obviously, all the laughs we've had over Lakers and Dodgers and all that good stuff over the years. You're coming on the show, talking about it. Tax season's upon us here pretty soon, and clearly we've got a great Teamster Advantage partner. This is the Worker Power Hour with Randy Corrigan on the Teamsters 1932 Broadcast Network. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to get to our next guest. Mark, take it away.